Screaming hairy armadillo.
That needs to be a mascot somewhere. That needs to be a team mascot
There are
someplace.
the armadillos somewhere. I don't know where, but there's an armadillo team probably somewhere.
But is it a screaming hairy armadillo?
No.
It should be. Now it's time for my top 10 in Washington, D.C. again. I'm sort of picking up where little guy leaves off. My number one is going to be a little bit of a theme with a lot of the places we're looking at. Of places where we honor American history in so many different ways, and places that are pretty poignant. I've been to Arlington National Cemetery on all 3 trips that I've been to DC for. One was again with my mom back in the early 1990s, but twice more covering Stars and Stripes Honor Flight, where they take veterans from southeastern Wisconsin and fly them to their memorials and their monuments in Washington, D.C. with other veterans. They get a chance to share that experience. I'm going to throw a link in there for you to check out what they do, and also encourage you to donate as well to Stars and Stripes Honor Flight. But our experience there was so powerful because so many of America's soldiers, airmen and women, seamen and women, our sailors, members of the Marines, had been buried there after fighting to defend our country and defend so many others and their freedoms across the world. And the ceremony of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, it will knock your socks off. It is powerful. Just the reverence, the silence of that ceremony, it's just insane. Speaking of powerful experiences, number 2, this may be for when you're a little bit older, if we get a chance to go maybe in a couple of years, the Holocaust Memorial Museum. Now, you've learned a little bit about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
This museum, which is on the western end of the National Mall, really details what Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany did to an entire group of people, Jewish people, based on their religion. And it was just absolutely horrific, the crimes that they committed against them. 6 million Jews losing their life as part of this. And the point of the museum is to teach America and to teach the world that we can never accept a group of people based on their race, their religion, or anything else being treated differently and being treated with less respect than anyone else. That we all need to have that level of understanding of each other and to build the kind of a world where this can never happen again. The number 3 spot for me is across the Potomac River, just like Arlington National Cemetery. It's the Marine Corps War Memorial. I've been there twice.
Okay.
There's a very famous picture from the Battle of Iwo Jima when American Marines on the South Pacific Island during World War II pushed an American flag up and raised it. Essentially victory. This is a way big, tall version of that.
Okay.
Going there with veterans was just incredible, particularly Marines who served in World War II and in other wars, where they could celebrate the accomplishments of what they did to keep America and the world free. And that was just an amazing, amazing thing to share with them. My number 4 isn't one particular spot to check out in DC. It's a whole bunch in one experience.
Yeah.
It's called the Monuments by Moonlight Tour. Mm-hmm. You know how cool so many of these different places in Washington, D.C., these monuments, these memorials look just in general, how majestic they are.
Yeah.
Think about how cool they look at night.
I've seen pictures and it looks super amazing.
This is a 2.5-hour bus tour,
Wow.
trolley tour, where you get a chance to see the views of everything from the Lincoln Memorial to the Washington Monument to the Capitol Building to the White House and so many others in the incredible look of nighttime, which you really can't enjoy the National Mall as much in the evening because so many of these places are closed.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see what it really looks like at night.
Yeah.
Here, you do.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
We're somewhat space heads, and I'm not speaking of what's in our brains, but much more loving, like the history of space flight. You got a chance to watch the SpaceX launch.
Yes, I've got into NASA and I love it.
The National Air and Space Museum, another part of the Smithsonian. I had a chance to go there as a kid when I was on that DC trip, and I fell in love with this place. It's got everything from the first ever plane to fly across the Atlantic Ocean solo, Charles Lindbergh, the Spirit of St. Louis plane, to artifacts from the Apollo 11 moon landing, the very first time human beings landed on the moon, including the spacesuit of Neil Armstrong.
Wow.
Yep, exactly. You get a lot of wows at that particular spot. Speaking of wows, if you just walk maybe a couple of blocks north across the National Mall, you will get to my number 6, the National Gallery of Art. If it gives you an idea about how big this place is, my mom, when we went there, was looking for Rembrandt paintings. Do you know who Rembrandt is?
No, never heard.
One of the world's greats. She asked a security guard, well, where's the Rembrandt painting? And the guard went up to her and said, "Lady, you're in the rooms of Rembrandts." They have rooms of Rembrandt paintings, rooms of Monet, rooms of some of the greatest artists in the world.
Da Vinci?
I believe Da Vinci is among them as well. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure of it. 150,000 pieces of art in their collection. That's more than Lambeau Field, Fiserv Forum, and Miller Park has seats.
Wow.
You could seat one piece of art in every seat of these stadiums, and you'd still have some art left over in this place, which is the 13th largest art gallery in the world. A couple of blocks west of there is the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So much that we're learning right now, especially during this time, during this particular year, in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, is so much of a deeper understanding of the African American experience. We went to the DeSable Museum in Chicago, which we already talked about, with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s experience talking in Chicago as part of that African American History Museum. The DeSable is great. Multiply this by maybe 4 or 5 in terms of all the stuff that's in there and the lessons to be learned from a place such as that. Similar to it as well, take a short walk away from there is yet another Smithsonian museum. These are all part of the Smithsonian.
Woohoo!
The National Museum of the American Indian, the Native American experience. That was the first group of people who were here, the indigenous people to America. And this museum has one of the biggest expansive collections of artifacts and history from the Native American experience. And we're not just talking the United States. We're talking about all the Western Hemisphere. Everything from Alaska, the Arctic Circle, all the way down to the bottom tip of Argentina.
Wow.
That's a lot of countries and a lot of the experiences of Native Americans and what they went through, not just how they lived in ancient centuries, but what they went through when European settlers and really European conquestors came to take over their lands, and what effects we still feel today, what their perspective is on that history and how we live today and the changes that need to be made in that way. Another super, super powerful experience on my list, my number 9. This one may be the most emotional out of all of them in many ways. I think the Holocaust Museum will certainly be on that list, but so is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I've been there 3 times. Once with my mom back in 1990, with your grandma, twice on the honor flights. Have you ever seen pictures of the memorial?
Maybe.
Okay. It's this really long, big black wall that's angled, and it has the name of every single American who died from fighting in the Vietnam War. all 57,000 plus Americans. When I had a chance to go there with many Vietnam veterans as part of the Stars and Stripes Honor Flight, to see their tears when they were finding names of buddies who they fought with in Vietnam, words cannot express the power of that moment. And even when I went there in 1990, I was in tears when I saw this. And it's because of the history of why did we go there? Why did we fight in Vietnam? And it makes you ask a lot of questions as well. It's one of the most poignant memorials I've ever seen in my life. One of the most majestic, though, is across the National Mall. It is a very new memorial in comparison to the others. It is near the Washington Monument. It's the World War II Memorial, and it's so beautiful. The pool there is incredible. The reflecting pool at this memorial is amazing. But so is the fact that you have 50 different states and their veterans honored at this memorial. And you see, especially when I had a chance to go with World War II veterans, to see the smiles on their faces, to see them finally getting a chance to see their memorials, and to take pride in what they did in defending freedom from tyranny, from fascism, really. When I had that chance to see that with these honor flights, it's just a fantastic memorial. It's one of the new and great ones in Washington, D.C. Did we give them enough of the list? 20 different things to do along with David Marinus' fantastic ideas?
For now.
For now. But you gotta eat when you go to Washington, D.C. So we're gonna check out 5 spots each to fill your belly up in between all this sightseeing. We're gonna need to spend at least a week in Washington just for one game, which we normally don't do for one game in a title, but we're gonna have to in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, usually 3 or 4 games. Or 3 or 4 days.
Daddy better save up some hotel for this one. So, but this is gonna be a blast once we get there at some point. To catch our next video, our Washington, D.C. restaurant pick video, and everything we do with our Brewers road trips and more, what do?
Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, ding, 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 and go check the description. Comment your favorite attraction in Washington, D.C.
So many amazing ones to pick from. That's why we had to do 10 for little buddy. I am Daddy. Can you give us some euchre to take us out?
So long from Story Studios in Milwaukee. Bye bye bye.